Hey guys, Savage Recovery back for another video. Very important topic today. Do men have to worry about false allegations, or is that just something that weak men say? Now, what we're going to get into some stories, and we're going to get into some videos, and we're going to see if this is a reality or if this is just something that is being said to make excuses for men not doing certain things, or if men themselves are pretty much just lying. So the first video that we're going to get into is this is a grape case that was put on against a student, and obviously the case ended up getting dropped, but we'll see exactly how this goes.
Christine, that security video coming from the popular student bar behind me here on MLK and Menlo. And while the judge declared the student innocent, he is not out of the clear just yet. He says he now has to prove himself to a USC ethics committee that will ultimately decide whether or not he can stay here for the fall semester.
Well, I was very surprised that these charges would be brought against me because I hadn't done anything wrong.
USC student Arman Premji charged with rape after a night out at an off-campus bar. But he says security video from the night of April 1st, taken from Banditos, shows he's innocent.
When I saw the videos, I was very relieved that there was proof to substantiate my side of the story.
The video shows Premji and a female student kissing in the bar's back corner, her arms around his neck. Premji said she kept pulling him closer, and after several minutes, she led him by the hand out of the bar.
So, does this look like being forced, or does this look as if the guy was taking advantage, or any of these things? Because I don't think so. I don't.
On the sidewalk, Premji said the girl introduced him to her roommate, where she made sexual gestures behind his back.
She made a gesture to her friend of her plans to have intercourse with me that night.
Premji says they had both been drinking. The two are seen leaving in an Uber before arriving to the girl's dorm room. Security video there shows the alleged victim stopping to sign him in.
After I had sex with her, I left, and the next day the LAPD was at my doorstep asking me about, what happened.
So she signed him in. She made gestures to her friends, but then the next day she still decided to make the allegation.
Premji says the alleged victim never reported the incident to police, but he was charged with rape after he says her roommates gave officers his name. Premji said the girl was the aggressor, and last Saturday a judge agreed.
So here's another thing. So she didn't even file the report. The girl that she lived with did. So in my own experience, I've had women tell people, like I had an experience where a woman was running my name through the mud on an incident that it never happened. It never happened. My roommate was there. I had a witness the whole time. It never happened. But she was going around talking about my sullying my name because we had broken up. And had any of her friends ended up calling the police, any of her friends decided to do anything other than just talk shit, then this would have been me. And there would have been no way for me to get out of it because of my criminal history and because she was quote unquote pregnant. So there's no legitimate way to come out and be like, hey, you know what? This is why this happened, or this is why that happened. It's one thing if I get arrested for beating up a guy or fighting a guy, I can make a self-defense claim. There's all sorts of things that I can do. But when it comes to a woman making an allegation to something that never happened and her being pregnant, just that alone puts enough weight on what is being said that there's really no way to get out of it. And like, I wasn't at a bar. I don't drink, so I couldn't get footage from a bar. I could only get my roommate to vouch that it never happened. And it's pretty much he said, she said. And we all know the courts go in one direction.
After seeing the video, cleared him of all charges.
Hearing the judge give a ruling, it made us believe that there is justice, truth does come out ultimately, and we were fortunate to have the kind of evidence to support, Arman's innocence.
But Premji's innocence will have to be proven once again. He says USC's Office of Equity and Diversity is conducting its own investigation.
I could get suspended or expelled from the university even though the judge has declared me innocent.
The business major, who's going into his junior year, says he's staying optimistic. He wants to stay in school and finish his degree.
I'm hopeful that USC will make the right decision. USC is not above the law, and so I'm hoping that USC will dismiss the case.
And Arman says that he has a hearing with the ethics committee in the next few weeks. Meantime, he says he's supposed to pay fall tuition, start classes, and then wait for their decision. We reached out to the university but didn't hear by news time tonight. We're live near USC, Victoria Spillane.
So the crazy thing that goes on right here with this is even after the case has been dismissed criminally, the school can still suspend him. And in order for him to stay enrolled, he has to pay this money and go to class, and he still might get suspended. Like, even the fact that he's innocent, this could have long-term effects on him. And I didn't follow up on the story, so I couldn't tell you if he ended up staying in school or not. But the fact of the matter is, what's funny is that was a diversity unit of the college, and a brown guy from India, or what's up, cool, from India, or I'm not even sure like what. Like, I'm assuming India, but he could have been Pakistani or something. I'm not sure where he was from. You would think that the diversity, if you hear the diversity section of a college, it would be fighting for guys like him. But the fact of a white girl, I'm assuming that was a white girl, they blurred her face, which is funny because he's the victim, but she got her face blurred. She made a false allegation, and the white girl is the one that the diversity wing of the college is helping and going after the minority because he's a man. Now, here's another great story of false allegation.
Faisal had doubts and turned to a lawyer. His wife took their breakup to the next level.
You're about to witness one of the most audacious attempts by a wife to frame her husband for domestic violence.
She's dangerous, very dangerous.
Watch how this woman astonishingly punches herself in the face, not once, but twice, later telling police her husband bashed her.
It's flipped my life upside down. I'm not the guy who I used to be anymore.
This is a story about temptation and treachery, a lover and a liar, where romance makes way for revenge with catastrophic consequences.
Well, I haven't actually heard of a scenario such as this, inflicting injury upon themselves in order to set up a scenario which results in someone else being charged.
If love is blind, then Faisal only had eyes for Asma.
She presented herself like she's the perfect girl on the planet.
He met her through an online Muslim dating site and proposed soon after leaving Western Sydney to meet Asma in Morocco. However, while Faisal was hoping to return to Aussie with a life partner, he now believes Asma didn't share that dream.
She's a greedy person. She's materialistic.
The two officially tied the knot here last year, And Faisal was hardly frugal in making his new bride feel at home. He worked 2 jobs, spending everything he earned on his wife, from Gucci tracksuits to leather jackets, rings, necklaces, and shoes, holidays and fine dining, parties in Morocco, and money wired back to Asma's family. A fawning Faisal says he was a good provider.
All this traveling, going back and forth.
So in this story, this is a man that is married. He's married, and he took care of his wife, and she still tried to set him up.
Twice and 3 times, and doing all the functions, receptions, engagement, jewelry stuff. Probably I'm under 200,000.
$200,000 on this broad.
But Faisal says they were constantly arguing, and in April, he walked into an incredible sting when he came home from a night shift at Woolies.
Yeah, it was all prepared for me, the whole crime scene.
The unit had been ransacked. Faisal says Asma was waiting for him with this disturbing message.
I entered and she just said to me that you think you are smart and you are talking to lawyers about me. Now see what I do to you. And she just ran.
CCTV captures the bizarre events that followed. Asma runs from the apartment and into the lift. She presses the button. Takes a few moments before the incredible Asma attack. She gives herself 2 uppercuts to her face and clutches her cheek. She then checks her handiwork in the mirror. Seemingly satisfied with her self-inflicted punishment, Asma eagerly waits for the lift door to open. She takes off down the hall and into the street to call police. Oblivious to what his wife had cooked up and concerned for her safety, Faisal also entered the police, where he was arrested and charged with assault. If convicted.
So again, the first video that we had, the woman showed the woman was the aggressor, and her friend was the outcry witness, and she made the claim on behalf of the woman. And with her word, not even the woman that was quote unquote part of the incident, a man got arrested just on her word. Now this man's wife, again, he's calling the police, he's been arrested by the police just on his wife's word.
He faced up to 7 years behind bars.
7 years.
I didn't know that she went to that. She's going to go to that extent, go to the police and forget everything what I did for her and just ruin my life.
In a follow-up sucker punch, Faisal says the police unwittingly helped Asma steal his things, which she had packed into these suitcases while he was being held at the station. But more importantly, Faisal's freedom was also about to be taken.
Did you ever harm Asma?
Never. I really loved her.
Faisal spent 20 grand on a lawyer and trawled through hours of CCTV to find his get-out-of-jail card.
And once I saw this, I felt relieved that now the justice will be served.
New South Wales police dropped the assault charges, but never charged his estranged wife for making a false accusation, an offence which also carries a jail term of up to 7 years.
Question is, why not? The answer is because if they do, they're going to be embarrassed by what they didn't do at first instance.
Victims of crime advocate Howard Brown says it appears police failed to investigate Asma's assault claims properly and assumed Faisal was guilty from the outset.
So when you realise that someone has made a false declaration to a police officer and you can prove that she made a false declaration, you then charge her with perverting the course of justice. Police haven't done that.
Asma's statement to police is shocking.
Faisal grabbed my throat with both hands and began to squeeze tight until the point I was unable to breathe. He punched me on my left cheek and with his fist. He has started to hit me everywhere with the belt. He was so violent to me. I thought I was going to die.
Faisal suspects Asma's motive was an email she discovered he had sent to a visa migration agent. He says he wanted out of the marriage, which was potentially a threat to her ability to stay in Australia.
What do you feel when you look back at these photos of her?
Sad that I shouldn't have done that.
So they haven't charged her. He had to pay an attorney. The court helped her steal his stuff. And he's out the engagement, the wedding, all these things. Yep, she's the victim.
Should have known better.
Yeah, should know better.
Asma has since disappeared somewhere in Australia, leaving Faisal to deal with the fallout from false love. He's battling away in average shared accommodation to help pay off his debts. The hurt hubby now wants his estranged wife charged, held accountable, and deported back to Morocco.
I just want to say, hey, bro, like you gotta get that shit cleaned up. Like your place is an absolute mess. Like you're wearing those Gucci sandals, but your apartment looks like trash. I'm just saying.
I am the victim now. I got used and abused over and over again, mentally, financially, emotionally, you name it. I'm the victim. So she did that. Now it's her turn to face the consequences.
Faisal says he's got a long road ahead before he's capable of finding love again, but says he's learned a valuable, albeit expensive, life lesson.
If God shows you true colors of someone, don't try to paint a different picture. Just stick with that. You'll end up like me.
New South Wales Police are now reviewing all the evidence. We will let you know the outcome.
And then here's another story about an innocent man.
Hardworking bloke, the product of an equally decent family. 8 years ago, he met the woman he thought he'd spend the rest of his life with. Her name is Sarah Jane Parkinson. Together, she and Dan planned their wedding.
So just to do a little bit of a recap. So you have two people at a bar drinking and making out with each other, and a guy, I don't know if he just met the chick, but long story short, they met up at a bar. They met at a bar. Whatever happened at the bar, they drank. The woman takes the dude to her dorm room and gets an allegation. And then these two men are married and have allegations from their wives. Not random women, not women at work, not women that not their neighbor, the woman that they're married to. The one that said, "Till death do us part."
And started building a house. But just as life was looking so good, Parkinson started making up vile stories about her fiancé. She went to police, accusing Dan of despicable domestic violence and rape. He
Okay, I apologize. A fiance. He was going to marry her.
strenuously denied the allegations, but to no avail. It would take 6 long years and cost hundreds of thousands of dollars before the truth was finally revealed, that the woman Dan thought loved him wasn't a victim, but a pathological liar. Dan Jones lived every man's nightmare. Falsely accused of rape by the woman who claimed to love him.
You've gone from meeting this innocent, sweet girl to this premeditated monster.
Sarah Jane Parkinson had a big smile and a little girl's voice.
When Daniel attacked me,
which hid a wicked heart.
Hand on my heart, I know it was Daniel. I recognised him.
When her cunning web of lies brought down her fiancé.
Think about this. In what world should you be in a situation where you have to forcibly take sex from your fiance, girlfriend, or wife? In what world should you have to be? Like, anytime that any woman says a story to my husband, my fiance, my boyfriend, he raped me, the police should be suspicious off of that alone. Like, this is 2021. This isn't 1804. Like, we live in the 21st century. Like women getting raped by their significant other is not, and that is not a, like, that is not even like that common of an occurrence. Like, it's just not. It's not.
Just flipped like a complete stranger.
She turned on his parents. You went to war.
Yep, this was a battle. Identify your enemy, know who they are, marshal them, corral them, and finish them.
But gullible police believed Parkinson's despicable claims.
The incarceration of someone is supposed to be the last resort of the law.
Dan Jones was thrown into jail.
Yeah, his last words to me on that phone call were, "I love your son," and I could hear his voice breaking.
The Jones family destroyed.
My only dream in life, Liz, was to have a nice little house with my family around me. That's all I ever wanted. I didn't think that was a lot to ask.
With all hope lost, it took one good cop to finally unmask this serial liar. And as criminals go, how do you class her?
So let's just get this straight. It took a woman. It took a woman cop to be like, this lady's full of shit. I'm a broad. I know how broads are. This lady's full of shit. Like, if it wasn't for this female cop, this dude would probably still be in prison.
She'd be up with the worst.
It all began back in 2011 when Dan Jones, then 25, met 20-year-old Sarah Jane Parkinson. He was an AFP officer working as a dog handler, and she was an airline employee.
He was
They
a
fell in
police
love,
officer.
And within months were planning their wedding and building a house.
She was very kind of girly and cute and innocent and very kind of a little bit old-fashioned as well. Like, she always, dressed very nicely. She always wore, nice dresses and like frocks and all that kind of thing.
She was immaculate. Her dress, her appearance, her manners, everything was just perfect.
Mum always used to tell the story about going down to the washing machine or something and be a toad.
Oh, yeah, I had a cane toad waiting
Just-
for me.
Yeah, in the
They don't come more solid than the Jones family. Michelle, a librarian, and Ian, a former Navy engineer, had been married for...
Do me a favor, guys. Hit the like button. Just, don't treat me like your stepbrother. Just, treat me like family. Hit the like button for me. I would appreciate it.
30 years, and they wished the same for their son. The family welcomed Parkinson into their hearts and home. But within a year, they began to doubt Dan's dream girl. She didn't have friends, and her many stories about her troubled past worried them.
She was raped by apparently from one of her friend's fathers. A Turkish diplomat apparently raped her as well, but fled the country before charges were laid. And yeah, apparently there's been a few other boyfriends that have been abusive. She has had a bad run of boyfriends.
Okay, so that right there is your first flag. That's your first flag right there. That if every single ex was abusive, then that's a red flag, because the only common denominator there is you. That's the only common denominator.
Any suspicions, though, were outweighed by sympathy, and Dan forged ahead with their plans together. But it all changed in 2012, when Sarah Jane Parkinson started a new job at Queen Bee Anne Police Station.
I'm just saying, he was a police officer, and they still screwed him over. And on top of it, why is it that the woman's not that attractive, but the actress playing her in this 60-minute recap is, pretty good looking? Just saying.
As a clerical assistant, she started staying out with work colleagues, and it's where she met her new lover, a New South Wales policeman. Parkinson soon began weaving an intricate web of lies.
So she's a
claiming
skis
that
bag
she was
too.
a victim of domestic violence. When Parkinson came to work...
Fun fact, I was with a woman that was in the program, and we were dating after my son was born, and she was telling people in AA that I was beating her. And as she was telling people this story, she was using that story to play victim, to be able to sleep around with other guys. And she had this story completely weaved around these guys where she ended up sleeping with like 3 or 4 of the 5 guys that lived in this house. Like, so she banged all these dudes, ended up dating one of them, but she was telling them that I was abusing her and I was cheating on her and all this stuff. And all of these dudes that all lived in the same house all knew that they were each one had sex with her. Like, a red flag didn't come off in their mind. Like, no one thought this was weird.
With bruises, police said she told them that Dan was abusing her. What she failed to mention was that she suffered a heart condition, which made her dizzy, and tunnel vision, all of which contributed to a series of household accidents and injuries.
She was always clumsy, and we always kind of used to make a bit of a joke.
So every time she'd had like a fall or she'd hurt herself or walk into something, you know, she'd laugh it off and it'd be just typical Sarah. That's just what she did.
But what she was doing was giving herself a bruise or a mark that she could then weave into her tale.
You had no idea that behind the scenes you were being portrayed as a violent man?
I had no idea. No idea whatsoever.
The first Dan knew that police were investigating him was nearly 2 years into their relationship.
I'm just saying, it might be that I'm just a dog at heart. But this reporter, even for her being old, you know, she ain't bad.
When Sarah Jane Parkinson's boss, Inspector Anthony Hill, called him to Queanbeyan Police Station for what he called a chat, Dan decided to take his dad, Ian, along with him. You walk inside and you find out...
Yep.
What?
They want to put a AVO against me for abusing Sarah.
And your response is?
I was like, well, I haven't done anything. You know, I was furious. I'm sitting there going, for what? Good old Inspector Hill said that he had 5 people that he would be willing to put up on the witness stand against me if I was to fight it.
5 witnesses?
Apparently, 5 witnesses to events that never took place.
And did you say, my fiancée should be able to tell you that's not true?
Yep, and she says she doesn't want to speak to you about it.
Like, that's crazy.
Yep.
How can you have 5 witnesses? Like,
Daniel Kane.
Here's the other part. Just from that being said, that just sounds like the cops were colluding to set this guy up. Just set this guy up. 100% seems like the cops were colluding to set him up. And that all stems back to the woman with the cop. Her lover was a cop. Like, and the fact that he was a cop himself is even crazier. Now, this is a super long video.
Back very agitated. Ian was quite angry.
What were you thinking about Sarah Jane Parkinson at this point?
I was starting to get the suspicion we'd let a rat into the house.
Well, clearly.
In the house.
Yep.
Clearly, Dad. You really got that going. Good eye.
You go home and you live with Sarah Jane Parkinson.
Yep.
Even though you've got this AVO.
Yeah.
Saying that you're a...
Okay, so right here, this is how you know this dude's an idiot. Like, he's an idiot. Like, why would you have a PTO or a restraining order or whatever that is and live with the woman that's making the claim?
You're a monster. You're a violent man.
Yep.
And she's your victim.
Yeah.
Parkinson blames her overprotective police colleagues for the AVO, and Dan believes her. And she's unequivocal about
you're
Dan's
an idiot,
innocence.
bro.
When Ian Jones, the decent dad, asks his prospective daughter
Dude, you're an idiot.
if there's any truth to the allegations the police are making.
I actually queried her directly about it by herself, and she's, no, there's nothing. Daniel's never hurt me. I can't imagine he ever would. He loves me. I love him. But it was rang hollow.
She looked you in the eye and said this.
Yeah, she's an accomplished liar.
Dan and Parkinson continue their lives together. He knows he's innocent, but he's beginning to have
So let's think about this. So why is the female actress hot and then the actor for the dude is not? He's not even a decent looking dude. He's a twerp. But I'll be fair. This guy and this dude's dad are idiots for living and believing that her cop buddies set the order. That's the craziest shit I've ever heard.
Other concerns. You're suspecting that she might be cheating.
Yeah, with, you know, some of the mobile phone messages and ringing and late at night.
No
You
freaking
confront
duh, bro.
Sarah Jane.
Yep.
What'd you say?
I said,
This dude is not bright. I'm
What
sorry,
did you
guys.
say?
He's not bright.
Her body language said it all.
You must have felt crushed.
I was crushed, but I was more angry at the moment. I was just furious, you know. I just built a house, you know. She'd moved in with me. Everything was going well. I had, you know, a good career. I had, you know, my dream car I always wanted. I had, you know, everything was going right. And on that instant, everything just went to shit.
The relationship ends in November 2013. Within days, Sarah Jane
So Latin Patriot. I'm saying that the husband is an idiot. He should have stayed away from this broad. He should have stayed away from the broad. He should have, like, kicked her out, moved, went to stay with his parents. He should not have been around this broad. Listen, from personal experience, anytime a woman makes an allegation towards you, that's it. Like, if I was living with my wife and I was informed by the police that there was a protection order against me for my wife, that's it. It's over. We're done. It's a wrap. I can't trust you. I'll never be able to trust you. I will be sleeping next to you and be unconscious and not, like, I will not be aware of what you are doing. When I'm at work, I don't know what you're doing. I cannot trust my life and my freedom on you. He's an idiot for even still being involved, and his dad is an idiot for not telling him to come stay with him and to leave that broad alone.
Parkinson comes here to Canberra's Gungahlin police station to make more claims about Dan. This time, they're so
No, Chris,
extreme
I wasn't calling
that
you an
to
idiot.
believe them is to believe that Dan is a monster. So many allegations.
Yep.
So many horrific stories about you.
Yeah, there were 32 in total. You don't get a chance to defend yourself. If you're just
32.
going, didn't happen 32 times. And like some of the charges that get written out to you, like, they're disgusting. I think they're the worst allegations a guy can be, you know, charged with. Or it's filthy.
Dan had apparently raped Sarah Jane Parkinson, according to her.
Allegedly.
She'd stated that he'd struck her on the head with a lump of wood, a tire lever. He'd urinated on her.
Yes.
He made her stand outside in the rain when she came home late and wouldn't let her in. You must be thinking, what is this?
This was just the charges. I was reading through it. I mean, they were horrific allegations. Some of the worst I've, you know, in the domestic violence you'd see.
And that just makes me furious. You've gone from, you know, meeting this innocent, sweet girl to this premeditated monster who's capable of making all these allegations against you without a care in the world and thinks you can get away with it. And you just sit there and go, who's this person?
Yeah,
Well, she
who
was
is this
getting away with it,
Yeah,
my dude.
it was just, she was just flipped. She was like a complete stranger.
She was getting away with it, though. That's the issue. She was getting away with it.
On Christmas Eve 2013, Dan Jones' world falls apart. He was working here at the Alexander McConaughey Correction Centre as a prison officer. And as he's leaving to go home, he is arrested in front of his colleagues and charged with 32 counts of domestic violence, including rape. He could not believe it. But Sarah Jane Parkinson's work was not yet done. Her
Of course
next
not.
target was Ian Jones, Dan's father. Coming up,
So, guys, I haven't watched this through, but I just want you to know that I said that this father was an idiot for not having his son come stay with him. Had he not lived with her after the order, there would have been a good amount of evidence just by the fact that he was no longer living with her and dealing with her, that these allegations were not, there was something wrong with these allegations. But the fact that he stayed and the fact that his dad didn't help him, this woman pulled his son and him into this crap. I've not seen this. It's the first time I'm watching it. And I told you 5 minutes ago that this guy was an idiot. He fucked up as a father. But do me a favor, guys. Hit the like button. Do not treat me like your redhead stepbrother.
We are in the fight of our lives.
A family under siege
He's going to end up in jail for 18 to 20 years.
plan their fight back. You went to
This was
war.
a battle.
But is it enough to stop Parkinson's deceit? She alleged you'd come to her home, rammed her head into a retaining wall, kicked her, and you raped her.
Apparently so.
That's next on 60 Minutes. It's January 2014, and Dan Jones is facing 32 counts of domestic violence, including rape, brought against him by his former fiancée, Sarah Jane Parkinson.
He stayed in the home because he's a beta. He's a beta. If you get a protection order filed against you for your fiance or your wife and you ask her about it and she says it's my colleagues at work, and you believe that, then you're an idiot. This woman could have been having, he also found out that she was cheating on him and he stayed. Like, that's how you know this dude is a beta. Like, she was looking for a mark and he was a mark. Like, any man with any sort of self-respect, as soon as that PTO order was set up, he would have got out of the situation. He would have, even if she was squatting in the house, he would have moved out of it, because at the end of the day, her being, like, this is the thing. As soon as that PTO order goes and he can get arrested if he's with her, if things go south and they're married, she's going to get the house anyways. And is your freedom worth the house? Because, cool, you get to keep the house from prison. Okay, so now you're going to go to prison and you're going to get the house. But wait, she's going to file for divorce from you while you're in prison. So you're gonna lose anything that she wants. She's pretty much going to get. Like, there's no benefit for you to stay with her and live with her after the order. There's no benefit. It's all just making the risk worse.
Dan has lost nearly everything: his home, his job, and his reputation. He's virtually under house arrest at his parents', while Parkinson lives in his house. His bail conditions are so strict, one breach and he'll also lose his freedom.
You just completely lost, helpless, confused. Everything's just going in your head. Like, it was me against the whole AFP. It was pretty much me against any person in a blue uniform at that point. It's obviously not the most favourable place to come back to.
So overwhelmed by what was happening, the Jones family realised they were under siege, and that it wasn't only Sarah Jane Parkinson.
Okay, so no, the solution is not just to watch porn and never interact with women. Like, that's not the, like, if men want to go their own way, I completely understand it. I totally understand. I'm not hating, not upset with it. Completely okay. But what needs to happen is men need to get backbones, and men need to realize that when something doesn't seem right, cut it loose. At the end of the day, women will tell you about that. Like, even when they're putting up their front and they're telling you and showing you all these things that they want you or think when you start seeing somebody, they ask you what you want in a woman, what you like. They ask you what you want. And you ask them what they want, and they'll tell you what they want. Now, is that really what they want? Maybe not. Is that really how they are when you tell them what you want? Maybe not. But when you start listening to the stories about their exes and work and when you start listening to women, when they talk, they will tell you the real them in little pieces, not realizing that they're doing it. As soon as something doesn't seem right, evacuate. Like, it's not worth the risk. There are way more women than there are men, and it's just not worth your freedom. It's not worth your freedom. It's not worth, like, getting this girl pregnant, and now you're just like, it's not worth, like, you gotta be careful when it comes to being with a woman. You do not own your male batter. You don't own it. There have been many court cases where women have stolen semen from men and gotten pregnant, and the men are still financially responsible. So you have to deal with that woman. Like, so at the end of the day, if it's not what you want, if it's not going how you like, cut it loose. Like, don't take every woman that you talk to or deal with seriously, because they're not. Women are not serious like that. They're just not.
They had to worry about. It seemed police believed every word she uttered.
So I got the family together and I said, we are in the fight of our lives. We are battling 2 police services.
So, Land Patriot, I'm not going to say that all women are bad, but what you need to understand is that the system and society allow all women to be bad. So a woman that divorces you is not the same woman that married you. The woman that you got pregnant is not the same woman that you got pregnant when she's filing for sole custody. What you have to understand is, and you know this, you know this, so you're being a little disingenuous by saying not all women are bad. You know as well as I do that women make decisions based off their emotions, and when you're sleeping with women, their emotions get real flared up. All right. Not only do their emotions get real flared up when you're sleeping with them and they get upset, but women make their decisions off feelings and emotions. So if you piss a woman off, she can screw you with the law. So you have to be very diligent about what you do, because even though you might not be a bad woman, you can still become a bad woman. Both of my kids' moms told me at one point that they thought it was very important for the dad to be involved in their kid's life, and both moms have kept me from seeing my kids when they got mad at me. Like, just because women don't do one thing to their ex doesn't mean that they're not going to get in their feelings and treat you differently. So as a guy, you have to understand this and you have to act accordingly.
South Wales and the AFP, we're incurring huge legal costs, and the consequences to Daniel, if this runs the way it's going, he's going to end up in jail for 18 to 20 years.
I can remember saying people are going to get angry at each other. We're going to snap at each other. We're going to be tired. It's going to cost a lot of money. But we have to do this because it's wrong.
Did you mentally change then?
Yep, I did.
To what?
I went on, well, I'll use the term war footing. Everything was about achieving my goal, which was proving Daniel innocent and having Sarah Jane and the police held to account.
That was your focus?
Yep.
You went to war?
This was a battle. That's how I treated it. It was only one way to do it: identify your enemy, know who they are, marshal them, corral them, and finish them.
If there was a battle, the front line was here, the Australian Federal Police Station at Gungahlin. It's here that Sarah Jane Parkinson found a willing ear. In particular, AFP Acting Sergeant Scott Corcoran. He was the first to investigate the allegations against Dan. Corcoran has since left the force.
This was not a mistake or an oops. This was a carefully orchestrated, prolonged and vicious attempt to get Daniel.
If Ian's anger is on display, it's for good reason. Police here again backed Sarah Jane Parkinson when she suddenly made outrageous allegations against him. Within a month of Dan's arrest, Ian too found himself slapped with a court order. One breach of that order, and he could also be sent to jail, something he believed Parkinson was aiming for.
We had an enemy, and I do mean an enemy. We were literally besieged.
You're looking at the cameras, which are still here.
They're still here.
In response, the Jones family went into defence mode, setting up cameras both in and outside their home to protect themselves against any false allegation by Parkinson.
There's still a camera here with the front door.
Michelle and Ian began obsessively compiling proof of their every move, keeping receipts and ensuring CCTV cameras could identify them, and writing detailed diaries.
Amy was at work. That was my daughter-in-law. Stayed until about 10 p.m. for home, and then home for 10:37 p.m.
It's quite precise, isn't it? And while the Jones family lived under siege, Sarah Jane Parkinson set up her new life with her policeman lover, taking up residence in the home Dan had built. You were wiped out and another one came in?
Yep. And I was paying for a mortgage for him and his 3 kids to live in my house.
They moved into your house and life went on.
Yep.
And you...
Yep, they had everything I ever worked for and I had nothing.
Before we knew what was going on.
So as you could see, a woman can take everything from you. That is why men need to be careful, because women can take everything that you have, and they can also take half of everything that you make in the future. In California, after 10 years of being married, a woman's entitled to alimony for the rest of her life. When you live with so right now, I work for the union. I have a pension. All right. If I was to get married and after 10 years, she divorced me, she could make a claim to get a portion of my pension every month when I retire. If I have a 401k, say right now say my 401k is at 200k and I get married next year, she's entitled to all of my, every dollar that's in my 401k, she's entitled to a portion of it. Even though I could have $5 million in my 401k or 100 million or 100,000 or 50,000 before I ever met her, because we got married, she automatically is entitled to half of it. So at the end of the day, men need to be conscious when they interact with women at work, at the bar, on Tinder, at Starbucks. You just need to be aware. There was a man that saw a woman broken down on the side of the road or a gas station, and he pulled over and helped her for 2 hours getting her car to run, and he followed her for a mile to make sure her car was working, or 2 miles, and then he pulled off. The next day he found out that she made a false report of rape and stalking, and he took the time to work on her car on the side of the road so she could get home. So when women want to know why chivalry's dead, is because of stuff like this. You don't even have to be a creep and doing anything, and your wife can set you up. The woman that you help on the side of the road can set you up. The woman at work can set you up. The girl at the bar can set you up. The girl that's on Tinder can set you up. As a man, you need to understand the risk and the rewards of interacting with women and act accordingly. Just that simple.
We had 4 plainclothes detectives coming up the driveway.
For this family that had only ever done things by
So, Latin Patriot, I'm not saying that I would never get married. I'm just saying that the reward would have to be worth it. Like the reward would have to be worth it. Like I would legitimately have to feel that the woman is worth it. Like the girl that I'm with is a very sweet girl. Like I've known her since we were in school. Like I don't think she has a mean bone in her body. When we were in school and after school, I'd never seen her be mean to anybody. So like if, after a little bit of time, if this continues, then I wouldn't have any problem marrying her. But like in my mind, men should always discount women as them being bad until they prove otherwise. It's just that simple. The same way that women want proof from men that they're worth their time, men need to you need to prove me that I can trust you. Just that simple.
By the book, Parkinson's next move was incomprehensible. On March 21st, 2014, a posse of police officers arrived at the Jones home to arrest Dan.
And as soon as I made a turn to go inside the house to get my phone so I could call the lawyers, they just jumped the gate and just slammed Daniel up against the wall here. So there were 4 men on top of Daniel making the arrest.
And I had no idea what was going on. They didn't tell me I was being arrested. They didn't tell me what for.
She's screaming, you're shouting.
I'm telling you to get back in the house and lock the door. Did not let them in.
I thought, here we go. Today's the day. This is where it starts. This is where it's really going to get difficult.
Dan was charged with yet another sexual assault of Sarah Jane Parkinson. A story she would add more and more shocking detail to over the coming week. Parkinson's final account was of a violent and horrific rape. You'd come to her home, rammed her head into a retaining wall. You jumped on top of her. You had forced her to open up a condom packet. You kicked her and you raped her.
Apparently.
That's quite an allegation.
It's a big one.
And utterly untrue. What no one realised was that this photograph of Dan holding his nephew Hunter was proof that he couldn't have done it. It was taken earlier on the day of his arrest by his sister-in-law.
Thank God.
Stamped with date, time and location, it showed Dan could not have been anywhere near Parkinson at the time she claimed he'd raped her. Yet, Dan faced the court fighting for his freedom.
I can remember seeing him handcuffed. And
Just think about that. So this woman was able to get in with a police officer. He was a correctional officer at the time. She made all these allegations. The police believed her. The prosecutor said that he had 5 witnesses to refute anything that he said. And then the only thing that saved him was, by luck, someone took a picture of him and posted it to Facebook. So there was an actual a timestamp of where he was at. If it wasn't for that photo, he was going to absolutely get screwed.
looking over his shoulder at us, and it became a habit of mine to go, chin up, shoulders back, chin up.
This was it. This was where Dan's life, as he knew it, came to an end. So serious was the charge of rape that Dan, a former prison officer, was denied bail and sent to Australia's toughest jail. Gold
Toughest jail.
Supermax.
Probably the worst day of their lives, that one. The taking of someone's freedom is supposed to be the last act. Daniel was banged up so fast it wasn't funny. And if anyone found out who he was while he's in there, he was dead.
So I got one phone call. I spoke to Dad, and he said, we'll get through this and everything. And his last words to me on that phone call were, "I love you, son," and I could hear his voice breaking. He's the strongest guy I know, and if he was struggling to get through it, then how was I expected to do the same? That phone call broke me,
Coming up, an innocent man locked away.
I thought, what are we going to do?
Another victim.
She made me feel as though I was guilty of everything she'd said.
Sarah Jane Parkinson.
Okay, so anyone that wants to come up here and give your opinion as this goes, if you agree or disagree with what I'm saying and what's going on in this, just let me know and I'll let you up here and we can air this out on the stream. But as you can tell, this is already bad. And it's bad. There's nothing good about it.
Exposed.
But people at school thought for 10 years that my dad was a rapist.
But is her trickery about to unravel?
What the evidence showed is it didn't happen.
That's next on 60 Minutes. Dan Jones is locked away. The former prison officer in a jail that houses the worst of the worst, Goulburn Supermax. Outside the jail, his family is desperately trying to free him and undo the damage done by the woman who once claimed to love him, Sarah Jane Parkinson. But this was not the first time Parkinson has accused an innocent man of rape.
She
who
made
would have
me
thought?
feel as though I was guilty of everything she'd said. Everything.
Who would have thought that this isn't the first time? And I bet you she wasn't charged for that either.
10 years ago, Parkinson accused Keith Lewis of raping her and threatening to kill her and her family. They were extraordinary allegations because at the time, Parkinson's best friend was Keith Lewis's daughter, Sarah.
This is a girl who I trusted my life with, and why would she lie? But my dad wouldn't do that. But why would someone lie? But people at school thought for 10 years that my dad was a rapist.
I felt like my heart had been ripped out, and I was looking at people thinking, what are they judging me? That's what my thoughts were, and I remember going to the bedroom and just bawling my eyes out, just thinking about this. What do I do here?
But Parkinson's hideous claims didn't end there. She also accused Keith of sexually assaulting his own daughters, Sarah and Rebecca, and abusing other girls at their school. Accusations that were all lies, but devastating for his family.
Dad held me and he...
Do me a favor, guys. If you haven't hit the like button, please hit the like button. Don't treat me like you're a redheaded stepbrother. But as you can tell, this woman is sick. And again, when it comes down to knowing better, if this chick lived in, I live in Cleveland. If this chick lived in, let's say, New York and did this stuff and then moved to Cleveland, nobody's really going to know that that's what happened. That's the thing when you, when you pick up and move, no one's really going to remember that this happened. It's not like she was a celebrity. I doubt that story of her making false allegations made national news 10 years prior. I'm sure that didn't happen. So again, the guy met a chick, she seemed wholesome, and then all of a sudden she's trying to put him in prison for 18 to 20 years. And I just want you to think about that. So the minimum and the maximum of the charges he was looking at was 18 to 20. So if they took it easy on him, he still was doing 18 years. And there's no physical evidence of this. It's just her word.
He was crying, and my dad to me is, I don't think I've seen him cry very often in my life. And my dad said to me, he held me and he cried and he said, I didn't touch her. And he was crying, and to me that was the most heartbreaking thing that you would ever have to see or hear from your dad. This strong, stoic Navy, person that I've always looked up to hold you, bawling his eyes out, saying, "I did not touch her, I promise you."
And you found yourself, you said, even saying to your wife, "Do you believe me?" How shocking though to have these conversations.
Yeah, why would I be having that conversation? Like, why should I be having that conversation with my wife? I'm defending myself over something that I haven't done.
Police agreed Keith Lewis didn't have a case to answer, and he was never charged over Parkinson's allegations. But Keith's family, his wife Robin and daughters, are still hurting.
Natural, sir.
I know, natural auntie. I just feel this helplessness that I just don't understand. I want to scream at her and ask her why.
So let's fast forward.
Ultimately, without her, he'd probably still be inside. But yeah, when she came along, it was very clear straight away that things were different.
Can you tell me, in your own words, what your understanding of the caution is?
That I can choose if I say or do anything, and whatever I do or say can be used as evidence.
Yeah.
For the first time, Sarah Jane Parkinson's allegations were being scrutinised, and Parkinson didn't like it, saying so in...
So think about that, guys. For the first time, being scrutinized when, for the first time, dude's already locked up. He's already in prison, and they're just now starting to actually do an investigation into her allegations. Now, isn't that crazy to you? Is it crazy that this man went to prison, and that is the first time that someone, after the fact, they decided to do an investigation on her? That's how one-sided the court system is. And not only is it one-sided, but to be fair, she did have in with the police. She did work with the police. So she's not your typical average woman that's making an allegation. But as you can see, the bias for a woman is high. Just because the people work with her, they believed her. Because normal people would have heard the story and been like, this is crazy.
text messages to her police confidant, Acting Sergeant Scott Corcoran, who was now no longer in charge of the case. In one, she wrote to Corcoran, "Lisa showed up at my work on Sunday and caused a bit of a scene. She is horrible, and I don't want to talk to her again." If Parkinson was rattled, it was for good reason. Lisa Alexander was scrupulous in her investigations.
Someone had reported all of these fake crimes and blamed Daniel for all of them. And as far as I was concerned, and what the evidence showed, is he wasn't responsible for any of it. It didn't happen.
She said, "Daniel didn't do this." She said, "I've got a lot of experience." She said, "He didn't do this." And we were...
Repeat that
But,
again.
yeah. Well, it was like, is this a trick?
But it wasn't a trick. Lisa Alexander's case against Sarah Jane Parkinson was so compelling that the Department of Public Prosecutions in the ACT called for an emergency bail hearing. Dan, whom they'd so relentlessly pursued into jail, was now someone they desperately wanted out.
Weird. It's weird that he's in prison and no one cared. No one did an investigation, nothing.
And after 4.5 long months, Dan was released. Even now, for Ian and Michelle, coming back to remember that moment is...
Like, don't get me wrong, this guy getting out is a blessing, but I guarantee you, when he found out that there was someone investigating it and he started to get hope, I can tell you that those days sucked, because the hardest part of being locked up is visitation, when you're excited for seeing people to come see you and then they leave. Like, the build up to them coming, the days move slow. then it sucks because you're there, you see them, you don't get to touch them, you don't get to interact with them, you just get to talk to them, and then they leave. And then getting the idea of hope that you actually might be able to get out makes your time worse. So those 4.5 months of them doing the investigation, or however long it was that he found out that there was someone on the street fighting for him, those days I guarantee sucked. I guarantee it was not like that was the worst part of his time. I guarantee it.
Too much.
It should never have happened. It should never have happened. We've lost everything. We've lost everything.
Coming up, how a good cop
I was horrified.
exposed Sarah Jane Parkinson's lies.
There's a person who's innocent.
But is it too little,
It has ruined us.
irreparable, too late for the Jones family? That's next on 60 Minutes.
Like the family still had to pay for lawyer fees, and they had, like there's a bunch of money that
No, it was Daniel. I reckon.
like there was a bunch of money. Like you're not going to get that money back unless you sued the department, or like if he pled guilty, then you really can't sue. You waive that right. So if they bullied him into taking a plea by saying that they had evidence or they had witnesses to these incidents, 5 different witnesses, and he just took a deal because he thought he was going to get a lighter sentence. You waive your right to sue the government. That's just how it works.
Recognized him.
Late July 2014, Sarah Jane Parkinson now finds herself in the hot seat, being questioned by the cop who would finally bring her undone, Detective Sergeant Lisa Alexander.
You're saying that you drove past their house. It doesn't make any sense.
I know, I just...
This is the actual audio of the police interview where Parkinson is being called to account for the raft of allegations she's made against the Jones family.
We put it to you, Sarah, that you reported it stolen, falsely accusing them of offence.
No.
They're allegations that will finally reveal her to be a liar.
I think it was just sheer desperation. Like, it's been a rough few years with Daniel.
On reviewing of the evidence, there are a number of photos on Sarah's phone that I saw. And Sarah appeared to be very happy. And during those dates, Dan was in jail. So I found that very difficult, that a person who could be so happy while someone else is in jail.
Detective Sergeant Lisa Alexander had only been on the case for a few weeks. Police had spent the previous 2 years believing Sarah Jane Parkinson's claims of rape and domestic abuse, which had put Dan Jones behind bars. Now Parkinson was claiming a pattern of persistent harassment, threats and theft implicating Dan's parents Ian and Michelle and his brother Andrew.
So what do you guys think about this? Like, do you think that this is a rare occurrence, or do you think that this is more common than people think? Or do you think that it was just, one guy? Like, what do you guys think about this? Because the fact of the matter is, I would rather 100 guilty guys get away than one innocent guy go to prison.
You think the Jones family would have survived this if justice ultimately didn't prevail?
Well, it was already falling apart.
Parkinson made many accusations, including that she was driven off the road and attacked by a man wielding a knife. This was a knife that you actually were able to trace?
Yes.
The steak knife Parkinson claimed was used to attack her was her own.
We did a search warrant, and the set of 6 knives was only 5 knives. We had those knives later compared, and that was one of the set of 6.
ACT Police, Alyra speaking.
Sloppy.
Hi, my name's Sarah Parsons.
So just think about that. Had they done any sort of investigation 2 years in the beginning or whenever this claim came from, this could have all been avoided. But just because she was a woman making the claim, it had to be true.
And my power was cut off before, but I had a lock on the power box, and that's gone now.
Parkinson also implicated the Jones family in multiple break-ins at her house.
Police Operations, Jane speaking. Hi, my name's Sarah Parkinson. Last week, my house got broken into, and one of the things that was taken was my iPad.
Then she claimed her iPad had been stolen and that software indicated it was at the Jones house.
It's a bit of an ongoing thing at the moment. I'm giving evidence in a trial against my ex-partner, and his family's been harassing me, and the house has been broken into 8 times.
She was saying, my iPad's stolen and I know where it is.
That's right, yeah.
It's at the Jones home.
Yeah.
But she had a GPS tracker on her car, is that right?
She did, yes.
It's almost eerie to see a lie unmasked so easily as this GPS track of Parkinson's car. What did that show?
Showed that someone drove from Sarah's house to the Joneses' house.
That was Sarah Jane Parkinson planting the iPad outside the Jones family.
Yes, it was.
House. So
She clearly had a troubled
the lies
past.
are mounting.
Clearly.
Yeah.
The lies kept coming. This time, Parkinson claimed that someone had broken into her car at work. And again, probably the Jones family, she said. But CCTV footage showed Parkinson briefly leaving work and unlocking her own car to set up the story of a break-in.
On review of that footage, it showed that no one had broken into Sarah's car that day. We watched all the footage, and it was clear to me by the end of watching that footage that Sarah had lied.
And this is the craziest part. Like, out of the 3 cases that I showed you in the stream, these allegations are sloppy. Like, they are sloppy. Like, if it wasn't for these women being so sloppy, these men would have been screwed. Like, had these people knew that these cameras were where they were, and had this woman not kept making claim after claim after claim, like, had she stopped at some point, this probably never would have got figured out. Like, she got so confident with her lies that they just kept going to where it was completely unbelievable. Like, had she stopped making claims before the time that that picture was taken, like, no one would have looked, like, there would have been no evidence. No one would have looked into this. Like, no one would have.
So I thought, if she's lied to me, perhaps she's lied to the earlier investigators.
What do you feel when, as a police officer, when you
What's up, Meme Jesus?
have that thought?
Oh, my blood ran cold. I was horrified that that may be the case.
What Lisa Alexander proved was that Sarah Jane Parkinson was nothing more than a serial liar.
Daniel was my issue then. So it was, she's lying to me. She's lied to me now on 4 occasions. There's probably an innocent person in jail.
No way.
My only dream in life, Liz, was to have a nice little house with my family around me. That's
Dropped, the nightmare that's been inflicted upon them by Sarah Jane Parkinson is now laid bare. The years of fighting to prove Dan's innocence has quite literally destroyed them. Can you put into words what these last 6 years have been like?
They've taken a horrendous toll. Daniel's lost his career, his reputation, his livelihood, his house. Michelle and I expended huge amounts of money which resulted in significantly contributed to our divorce after over 30 years of marriage. It's shattered any belief we've got in the police, legal system, the judiciary, the DPP. It's destroyed our family. It has ruined us.
Is it irreparable?
Yes, I think so.
So who is Sarah Jane Parkinson then?
I think she's a lying, vindictive, cancerous human that should not be around other people at all.
I was a woman who could go bang, bang. Got a question, bang, I've got an answer. You know, I was a professional. I was in a professional position. All that's gone. You know, my marriage is gone. And my family, you know, all I ever wanted in life, my only dream in life, Liz, was to have nice.
So, like I was saying, for men, this man lost his house, his career, his reputation. He isn't making the same amount of money that he was making, because if you look up his name, you're going to find out that he was charged with all these charges. His parents got divorced. His parents went into debt. Like, it literally ruined not just his life, but his entire family's life off just the word of a woman. No evidence.
Nice little house with my family around me. That's all I ever wanted. I didn't think that was a lot to ask.
It's not.
I didn't think that was a lot
Yeah,
to
it's a
ask.
fact. Meme Jesus is a fact. Absolutely destroyed. Their lives get
For
destroyed.
5 years, Parkinson vigorously fought the charges brought against her by
5
Detective Lisa Alexander
years.
of falsely accusing Dan Jones of rape and abuse. But early this year, Parkinson finally pleaded guilty, admitting to the court she'd made it all up. She was sentenced to prison for 3 years and 1 month. At least 2 of those years will be spent behind bars. So why did she do it? Well, according to the DPP, Parkinson was motivated by greed. The house that Dan built and money she hoped to get when Dan was locked away for years.
She saw a comfortable family with some savings. And she wanted it.
And she almost got it.
She did. She almost got it. Except for Lisa Alexander, she didn't count on Lisa.
And as criminals go, how do you class her?
She'd be up with the worst. I think it's appalling what she did. I think it's awful that anybody could do that to another person. I can't fathom what she did.
The fact that Sarah Jane Parkinson was, as the court described, a pathological liar is shocking enough. But the question the Jones family wants answered is, why was she able to cause so much?
So just think about that. So the dude's entire life, his family's ruined, and she only gets 37 months, and she can get parole after 2 years of time. Seems fair.
Much damage. Why didn't police stop her earlier? And why didn't the DPP test the evidence the police claimed they had?
This was a failure at every point. The police, the legal profession, the judiciary, the DPP, every single point this was a failure.
And a catastrophic
Yes,
failure.
Catastrophic failure.
The magistrate said Sarah Jane Parkinson's relationship with police may have emboldened her.
It may have.
Because she hadn't been challenged.
Sarah, in my opinion, knew the system. There are many protections put in place for real victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. My opinion is that Sarah knew them and she abused them.
What is the overriding emotion you carry with you?
Anger. Hang on, I've survived on anger for 6 years. It's not yet abated. I don't know that it will. Unless, possibly, people are held to account.
Dan was never guilty, but proving his innocence cost the Jones family more than $600,000 and everything they owned.
Okay, so think about that. Cost the family $600,000. 2 houses, a marriage, dude's freedom, and the woman gets 37 months. 37 months.
It's money they should never have had to spend. Despite the family's pleas, it's money none of the authorities involved are willing to repay.
You know, obviously, without mum and dad's financial backing, then, you know, I'd be in jail, simple as that. So, yeah, I want mum and dad to have what they lost and being compensated for everything that's happened. I mean, it's torn our family apart.
Sarah destroyed that family. It's awful what happened to the Joneses. I can't even imagine what it would be like. But they are good people, and she destroyed that family. And Dan didn't do anything to cause this.
He did absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Absolutely
Dan Jones
nothing.
is now living in Perth. Yeah. No. As far from Canberra as he can
I'm not gonna lie to you. His new girl is way better looking than his ex.
possibly get. And remarkably, he's found love again with his new girlfriend, Bridget. But Dan's story has left them all with deep and lingering emotional scars.
Yeah.
All caused by one person, Sarah Jane Parkinson. Would you like to say something to her?
I don't think I can say it on camera. I really don't. I think if she ever came near my family again, God help her. So God help her. Stay away from my family.
Sarah Jane Parkinson will probably watch this.
Mm.
Is there anything you want to say to her?
No.
And there's one more insult for the Jones family, the real victims of this crime. Despite what they've been through, they don't qualify for any compensation. Their only hope now rests with the ACT government authorising a special payment. No word yet, but we'll let you know if it happens. Hello, I'm Liz Hay.
And I'm going to tell you right now, the reason that there's no way for him to get any sort of money is because he probably pled guilty. Like, they probably fought, and like his family probably fought and fought and fought to get him. Yeah, that was the woman that set him up. But the fact of the matter is his family, he probably fought and fought and fought. And so this is the way this works. For anyone that hasn't been arrested, when you get arrested for a charge, the first time they give you a plea deal, they pretty much, like, the plea deal is like, it's nothing. Like, it's pretty much whatever it's a little, like, say you get a charge for 5 years. All right. They'll tell you, all right, well, you're looking at 5 years. This is what we'll do. If you plead guilty and don't make us go to court, then we will sentence you and let you get out after 3 years, 4 years. But you're still gonna be on papers for the following 1 or 2 years. If they even give you that deal, they might not even give you a deal for a while. But as time goes on and the closer and closer and closer and closer you get to trial, the better the deal is going to be. So His family was probably paying attorneys and paying lawyers and paying all these things. And then he pled guilty because they gave him the best deal he was going to get. Because there was no way at the time for him to prove his innocence. And when you take something to trial, 9 times out of 10, they're going to max you out if you are found guilty. So the system itself put pressure on him to plead guilty to a charge he didn't commit because the evidence was not looked at. There was collusion with the cops against him. And he pled guilty, and that automatically made him not eligible to get any sort of money back, because in the eyes of the court, he was guilty. And that's it. Your civil rights are not affected if you plead guilty. You're saying that you did it. Now, I don't know that to be the case because it doesn't state if he pled guilty or if he went to trial in this 60-minute report. But I'm gonna bet that's probably why he's not eligible for reimbursement. And think about that. Like, his new girlfriend she's a great looking woman. She's definitely got some buns. She looks like a sweet girl. But is she $600,000 better? Like, do you think he would have rather not ended up with that hot girl and not gone to prison and not lost his career and lost his job and his family not been screwed over? I'm sure he would have been with it, completely content with an average looking woman if his family and his life didn't get destroyed. We need to make the laws a lot stricter when it comes to allegations, and we need to start making the court system fair when it comes to allegations, because these 3 stories that I just showed you on this live stream are absolutely crazy. They're absolutely crazy. It's just because these women were sloppy is the reason that they got caught. That's it. It's not because these men maybe did it. It was just that they were sloppy. So tell me what you guys think down in the comments. If you haven't liked, please do me a favor and like on your way out. Share it. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. But as always, guys, stay savage.